It is that time of the year when, well, it's dark because we get thick cloud, not a shred of the sky is seen, and it just makes me so lethargic. I think it's the professional world. It's not that I feel anything. I just barely find energy to make it through the day with the necessary things I have to do. I'm just telling you this because today I was to release Silent Hill Revelations review. It's just a quick thing. It's nothing major, but obligatory because the first Silent Hill movie I was talking about yesterday. But even I decided I will do minimal editing because it would ruin the review actually if I wasn't just talking. So it's not that I don't have material to insert and the pesky editor, whatever. It's just leave it at that. So I decided to talk about computer games, ancient ones. Why? Because GOG.com released Final Fantasy remakes. A couple of them, 3 especially. That was what interested me. It's still on a heavy discount, like on 60%, so it's a really hefty starting point. And I tried pretty much all of the famous franchises, I feel. I mean, I tried Super Mario. I played it back in the ancient times when it was on Game Boy, and that was great. And I played it. It's pretty much a perfect clone. Giant Sisters, the first game of that franchise, was pretty much copyright breaking to Super Mario. It's the exact levels, the exact bosses, and I never found that original Super Mario game. And what I found, ROMs exist and all that, I use them as demos, so I don't really keep them around. I just want to see what was the word back then, and it was shit. I'm serious. These kind of shapes instead of the normal square ones, and that there was not a. I didn't find a fire-breathing lion and that kind of stuff. I know that a version existed. I stumbled into some footage from whenever. So it's not just my memory is playing tricks on me. So I played Zelda. I played a couple of them, but it's kind of like Skyrim, where you can do the whole game in like 1.5 hours, but they want you to stumble around and think upon the big picture and all the lore we definitely willfully inserted in the game. It's not just you making shit up from stuff we just randomly inserted by AI. Oh, it's absolutely not. I just couldn't care. See, Zelda, the first game I liked. It's a very retro game, so I grew up on Commodore 64 games. We also had an Atari with like maybe 6 games, and then we lent it to a friend of the family and they broke it. I wasn't really that mad about it because it had a tennis game, Pac-Man. There was a game which was pretty complicated and it was too hard. We never got anywhere. No one in the family got anywhere with it, but it was interesting. Later I found it on YouTube, some footage on another console, platform, whatever, and I checked out what it was supposed to be, just to know what was the ending. So we also had, of course, Space Invaders, maybe one or two other. You don't really want it at home. I'm glad if it exists in a museum or something, like when, like Angry Video Game Nerd explained the E.T. game, the famous Amiga or whatever. These all worked on, these vacuum tube TVs. No, they're all square TVs. Too bad that technology went away. I still have my old Commodore 64, so I might have to hunt on a TV for it. So, do we want these back? No, it's absolutely not like that. One of my teachers had a Spectrum ZX, and it was. I said to myself, look, I have a Commodore at home, and it's a piece of shit. But this is garbage. And Commodore wasn't that bad. I mean, it had color, it could make sound, it could even, with some trickery, make a sound and also some talking, very primitive and crude, and it was trickery, not two sound waves, it was just trickery, but it was great. Absolutely great. But you have to understand, those games were primitive as fuck. Because, there were those... Where can I find... Yeah. Remember these? Commodore was very much like this, just with infinitely better graphics. And of course, not just... this worked like... it didn't make graphic. It could appear the icon here, so the movement was to appear the icon here, then here, then you either catched or shot it, or you lost a life. And you always had 3 lives. So when in Commodore you get 5, it's great. But it had its limitations. And by the way, some of these, I could dig out some, but I won't. We lie. I can't find them right now, but see, these things many times came in serialized. Like, it was the same game, just with the different skins. Of course, this part was also in different color. So in one, you were some mage going from here to there. It was your home base, 1, 2, 3, and you had to get to the last place. and some other mage tried to throw meteors on you, and from down there came something, and you had to go here to pick up some shit and bring it to your home base, something like that. And if you were too slow and here appeared two of the cargo, then you also lost a life. If you got hit by a meteor, you lost a life. If the thing from below catched you, you lost a life. And there was one with dinosaurs, and I remember that better. There were pterodactyls throwing what are those cones on you, and of course it killed you. And here the 3 steps where you could stand appeared an apple, and you had to bring it to your home. And the other side had the big dragon, because you were a kid dragon, I mean dinosaur, and it sent out its offspring to grab the apple and bring it to him. And if 2 apples were at the same time at the big dinosaur, you lost a life, but it always looked out and pulled back, and you had this window to jump there, catch the apple, and bring it back home, all through the cones. It was bloody hard. The wizard one, it was particularly easy. I guess it's the timing of the stuff that I of course maxed out the scores. That was the only thing. There was no congratulation or codes. It was just scores. And in Commodore, it mostly was that. But later, they developed more complex games. The Batman was genius. You were in the first Batman movie. That's the whoever, the guy who was also in the Flash. Anyway, you hanged around in a rope, and you shot veterans to deal with the bad guys, and pulled out from a gun bullets, and then at the end you pushed the Joker into the liquid, and then you drove a car, and you had to throw the batarang at the right time to turn at the right corner and catch all the lost balloons, and it was actually the flying thing, the bat plane. There was also a thing with car, but I don't exactly remember. And there was one segment where you had to combine stuff to figure out what was in the Joker gas. And there was a final part which I again don't necessarily remember. It was the best game maybe in Commodore, but everything had to be directed with joystick. It was like the controller, but only one stick, and you had most probably just one function for the firing button. My joystick had 4 firing buttons. Don't know why. I think there were some games which utilized 2 of them, never 4. Most games went nowhere, and they just ended in a congratulation. We mostly never had manuals. Like Impossible Mission, I only figured out how to win it after the internet was a thing, because we didn't have manual, and figuring out that thing, it was just ridiculous. No one figured out None of my friends figured it out. Then there were later some bigger games which used complicated maps and took way too long. Like there was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game which was a beat 'em up. We had unlimited lives, so we didn't have to bother with that, but it took like 5 hours. And there was no save. You couldn't save your progress. So either you sat down and win, or it was all for nothing. Good luck with it. That was why I liked Golden Axe. Although Golden Axe had, for Commodore 64, had no ending. I'm serious. At the end you fought some giant, but not the big boss. It was not programmed in. Or there was Robocop, which was a great game. You mostly went, it was a side-scrolling shooter. You went left and right shooting people in windows, and before you went, sometimes they came in motorcycles and cars and stuff. And in between there was a guy holding a hostage, and you had to shoot him in enough time, and if you shot the hostage you lost some lives. This no save function for Commodore is not entirely true. There was one game, only one that I know of, which did have a save. But before that, I mentioned a platformer. It was touch screen, and you had to use a constantly bumping egg to get through. It had a level editor. I loved it. Spent way too much hour in it, creating the perfect, impossible or barely possible level. Pretty much like the Super Mario Maker, as long as it lasted. But you could not save the level. So after a while, designing marvels, well, I was like 10, 12, I just gave up. You know, it's never went anywhere. Like my learning of BASIC, the programming language for Commodore, because the books had no chance teaching me about graphics, and it sounds absolutely just a vague idea. Anyway, the one game that had, let's say, proper save was Ghostbusters, and it barely had anything to do with the movie, but it was recognizable, and it was filling up your time, and it was kind of fun, and it had a save function. For the most part, you just ran around, drove around in a car, hunting a ghost with your laser stuff. The secret was to stand the two characters on each other, and not crossing the line that killed them, I mean killed. You just went back to the HQ for more personal, so it's refill. But get them very close to each other, so the ghost froze in the air. So you just had to put on the trap and make the ghost hover above it and then pose it. And then you won the levels and won the cash. Money, money, money. I had manual for this. Despite that, after a while, it inevitably accumulated the psychic energy, and the Marshmallow Man started to destroy buildings, and if it destroyed enough buildings, then Zool came to that central building, and Marshmallow Man guarded the front door. And I had the manual. Never could go in. Not ever. I tried to touch here and there. I later in the internet age I saw I just had to go straight in. Never occurred to me. But I had great time because you could save all the money you earned. So when you restarted the game, because you restarted the game, if you had the however many letter long code, it's like 15, you got back your money. So you could buy the best car, which was absolutely a no-no when you first started the game. And get the best trap, the best equipment, the best everything. And you just made a joyride out of it. It was great. You know, otherwise, other games that were great was Street Road, which turned out to be Street Road 2. We never figured out how exactly it worked. We knew we had to beat the king, but otherwise we just made the short route, and we didn't speak the language and didn't grasp how the whole assembling the better car thing worked. Neither the Pink Dreams. We always played that against the weaker enemies. You are supposed to do that against stronger enemies, whatever. So eventually the games grew too big for Commodore. And that's one reason why Commodore went away. And if I'm honest, I don't want any of it back. Any of it. I had a blast. It was my childhood. But I don't want to meet it again. I mean, there were a couple of good games, and there is one game I wish to play as an adult because maybe I could do it. You know, most of the games were kind of rhythm games or puzzle games like Asteroid. When we got Maniac Mansion, that was just blew our mind because it was so different. And don't even mention Warcraft. The rumors of Warcraft when people started to have PC and they played Warcraft, and my Commodore 64 mind tried to imagine how it fared. So I thought it is a side view, not this overview, and you were in a orcs village, town, city, whatever, and here was a town, and with a guard, and here another orc, and here another orc. It was nothing, and then maybe here some graphics and HP meter or something. It was nothing like that, obviously, but that was what my Commodore mind conjured up, because we didn't have phones to make a footage of it or anything. These were not portables. Anyway, so there is one game. You played a firefighter, but you didn't actually. You were playing an agent who went for top secret suitcases into a burning building, which was filled with laser guns and laser fences and whatnot. And getting into any of the levels through windows of the building was already a fuss. And it had 2 screens of the building. And none of the levels could get anywhere, not even through the first obstacle. And it's the hardest game I ever played. I found they made a ROM or whatever out of it, but it's not in the page. The page names the company, at least some obscure German company, I will never get it back. I still have the floppy. If it works, I would. So I need that Cube TV just for that. But there is one, maybe one, that could work. Of course, it is a, what is that? Game room, arcade port. So it probably is for 2 players where it is winnable. Fortunately, it had all kind of infinite ammo, infinite bombs, infinite everything, just for that. But it was a side-scrolling shooter. You had the aiming crosshair, and that was it. A whole bunch of enemies was always on the screen with helicopters and all kind of shit. That would maybe work, and it would be absolutely enjoyable with a controller. But aside that, there is not a single game I could conjure up, I could remember up, that would worth playing. And it is very much true for most of the games, even the famous ones. Like Contra, head spawning randomly stuff so you are dying, or what was that, Castlevania, which is a pretty regular platformer. Okay, you are using a whip most of the time, so that gets some uniqueness of it, but what sold it back in the Stone Age was the Medusa head, because it went in this pattern, which was very annoying and unpredictable, and it was too fast to accurately hit it. But if you take that out of it, which is an absolutely annoying part, and you don't want it anywhere near you, because it is frustrating and annoying, it's a very bland game. Actually a bad game. I have it on GOG. Just bought it because it was posted with Contra and some other famous, that guy, Famicom or whatever title. And I was, well, I don't miss this. Now, Final Fantasy is ancient. It has all kind of design decisions that makes it ancient, but it is not bad. I say, if you buy it just to see what the past was, is good. It's representative. The game experience is mid. I won't trick you. It's mid. But if you are into this, just hit the button and progress through some a number getting higher stuff, these tactical action games, it's fine. I will make a dedicated video what frustrates me about it, because it genuinely frustrates me to no end. But in the end, should you play it? No. If you play it, would you get a decent experience out of it? Yes.